You think that you want this, and I think maybe that you do.
You know, like, J. Allen Brack is probably like a huge fucking asshole dickhead, but I do kind of feel bad for the guy because, like, whenever he took control of Blizzard, his hair was brown. I did the math in my head from whenever he took over and whenever the California investigation happened, and it happened within like 3 months of him taking over the company. Like, Mike was like, hey, here you go. Here's an egg. It's Blizzard, the egg, and the egg has a bomb in it. And then immediately Mike's gone. Everybody loves Mike. He's on another fucking company. Everything's going great. And then immediately fucking the egg blows up. Boom. He's like, oh my God.
The question was popped to J. Allen Brack whether Blizzard would consider a relaunch for World of Warcraft to undo over a decade worth of updates and start us again at square one for the game. To which he, of course, gave the resounding answer.
No, you think you do, but you don't.
You didn't want to relive the lack of convenience, the time it would take you to level, the questionable class balance. It was all just a memory of a simpler time in the past. Nostalgia, nothing more. Fast forwards to where we are now, Classic has existed for, well, some time. Releasing 26th of August 2019, we went back into Azeroth for the first time in so many years. We saw the frantic launch period, the race to a world first level 60, and to clear Molten Core and Onyxia's lair. We went through the motions all the way to the reopening of the Gates of AQ, the legendary war effort, and the Scarab Lord drama, finally ending on Naxxramas 14-man, a raid tier steeped in mystery due to how few people managed to clear it back in the day.
I feel like a lot of people felt that way about Nax. You know, they thought that it was like that. It was like this holy grail of difficulty that nobody was able to really do back in vanilla WoW. And then it came out in Classic, and it really wasn't that hard. It just took a lot of consumables.
Advocated for Classic heavily pre-launch, there were certain characteristics that the game really embodied that players wished to bring back and have be part of the game once again. Things that people felt to gradually disappeared from retail over the years, like...
These were really fun. Like, these, like, Blackrock Mountain, like, PvP fights. Like, the only reason why they sucked is because, like, you'd have it to where, like, 38 people would be in your raid, and you'd have, like, 2 people caught out and getting spawn killed and shit. But, like, fundamentally, dude, I love these raids. They were so badass. No lag. Usually 40v40 was fine in Classic WoW. It was whenever it went beyond that. And, like, on a big server, it always did.
A community and individual
losing
players'
world buffs is what
reputations, not with any official reputation built into the game, but among their peers. Class and specialization, identity, the scale of the world, how massive everything felt, the grind in order to achieve your objectives, ranging from leveling up your abilities to consumables or your epic mount, 40-man raiding, the goals of ranking, and so on. And the pervading community chant at the time was for Blizzard to go about Classic in a way which fit no changes. If they were doing
that's what I wanted, right? Is I wanted no changes in Classic WoW, and the reason for that is very simple. It's because I remember, like, I didn't trust Blizzard to make good decisions off the bat. I think there were a lot of people who thought that no changes meant never change anything even after release, because, like, after release, I think that some changes, especially small ones, should absolutely have been on the table, and there probably should have been more changes on the table rather than less.
Do Classic, warts and all, the good and the bad. At the time, spell batching was praised as a win for the community, as was melee leeway. We want ranking just as it was, and for the honor system to release before any battlegrounds were made available. And we got all of that. Oh boy, we got all of that. Blizzard's implementation of batching just didn't make sense anymore with modern connection speeds.
I feel like the spell batching in Classic WoW, the entire idea of that was just so stupid. I really think that Classic WoW would have just simply been a better game if there was no spell batching. Like, just take that entire thing out of the game, and it would have just been a better game. Because, like, I don't know how many times I got killed by an attack, and then, like, I used a potion, and it just didn't go off because of spell batching. Players begged for batching? Yes, I know that, but Blizzard shouldn't have given it to them because it was stupid. It was a stupid thing. Yeah, like, it's just stupid. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, Burning Crusade PvP is way better because you don't have spell batching.
Running down Alterac Valley for 12 hours a day, and WoW PvP led minority factions to exodus their servers.
Yeah, they added lag into the game.
This never stopped Classic from...
Spell batching was whenever they had artificial lag to simulate gameplay back in 2006. They literally put that into the game because a few dipshits tweeted at them and they told them that would be a cool idea. I'm not even kidding. It was artificial lag that they put into the game.
Becoming a huge hit for Blizzard. Throughout the game, it constantly saw a massive amount of interest and was clearly well received overall by the players, though in a much different way and for a much different audience than the original vanilla was. Having a known release schedule to your game, especially an MMO, will do this, I suppose. You can already predict in advance when you need to come back to the game and for what reason. You know what does the most damage or healing or is the best tank. It's all already set in stone and has been perfectly mapped out over decades worth of fan servers and hours of replications of the game. And so as a result, both for Classic and TBC, World of Warcraft has become much more of a patch by patch experience rather than something that's continually growing as it did back from 2004 to 10.
Yeah, I think that's the big reason why a game like Lost Ark does so well, is because whenever Lost Ark implements new content, it implements that content on top of the existing content rather than in place of the existing content. So like you have to, like whenever they bring new content into the game, it will expand the scope of the end game rather than just shift it over to what the new content is instead. And like WoW has had this problem where every single time, like you don't play an expansion anymore, you just play the patch. And anything that's not in the patch is like completely irrelevant. And it's so bad to the point where players even want this. Like they get mad that they have to farm out like one trinket. They have to farm out one trinket in Eternal Palace for slightly more damage, and they lose their fucking minds.
Just like retail, in fact, just like many other MMORPGs these days, in fact. Did
Yeah.
you always find that you used to have a main game, but these days you're hopping between different titles now, trying things out, and just generally looking across the MMO genre,
Yeah.
or perhaps wider gaming as a
People
whole?
play a
and
lot
seeing
more
the
different
bigger
games.
picture. Moving into TBC, the game naturally started to answer some issues that players began to reflect on for Classic, that began to pop up again inevitably. The content's too easy. Well, here's heroic dungeons and overall more difficult raiding content. We've nothing to do at endgame, there's no repeatable content. Here's your daily questing hubs, Sketis, Ogrilar, Netherwing, the Isle of Quel'Danas, and daily dungeons. PvP ranking was turned into arena with resilience and matchmaking. Leveling takes too long? Well, Classic leveling gets massively sped up, and TBC 60 to 70 is still much shorter than 1 to 60 was in either expansion. Feel as though
I feel like the leveling in like I don't think leveling in TBC was like super fun. I actually hated leveling in TBC because all I wanted to do is just immediately be at 70, because like the difference between like leveling in TBC and playing retail WoW is like zero. Like the quests are exactly the same. It's just that things take longer. Like for vanilla WoW, we're playing all the old quests. You're going through the old world. It's a fundamentally different experience than like TBC, where you're still killing Boglash. You're still going around and killing 15 or I think it was 30 on release, and they nerfed it down to like 15 or 10 wind rocks. You know, get me 12 or 3 Clefthoof tusks. All right, let's go get those. Or sorry, Elec tusks. It's the exact same quest doing the exact same things. And I think that TBC, like vanilla WoW to TBC, was one of, in my opinion, the biggest accomplishments Blizzard's ever really had. Is because like you still can use tier 3 gear in tier 4. I thought that was the coolest fucking thing, man. I really thought that was amazing. I fucking loved it, dude.
you're falling behind on gear, you can't catch up, well, here are your badge vendors, and content gets heavily nerfed as new tiers are introduced. DBC has quote-unquote fixed a lot of concerns, yet if you don't PvP, which the stats we have available tell us the majority of people don't, it somehow feels as though it's even more of a raid log experience than Classic was, at least for me anyways. And it was in Classic and even more so in
Well, because you don't have to get world buffs. That's one reason, is that the people that were raid logging for Classic WoW played the game longer because they had to get more world buffs, or they had to get like PvP gear or something like that. I dislike how every tier in the previous tier is just going into the gutter. I liked Lost Ark's implementation of transferring gear. Yeah, I think Lost Ark did an amazing job with that, and I really liked it a lot.
TBC, where players have started to say more and more, I can't wait for the next thing, I'm kind of done with what we have at the moment. Especially in TBC, people saying, I can't wait for Wrath of the Lich King. Not just for the new class, or the new raids, or the PvP, but the convenience factors. Many players look down on Wrath of the Lich King as overall the beginning of the end for World of Warcraft. At the time when
it was, definitely, but it wasn't for all those reasons. It was, the reason why it was the beginning of the end for World of Warcraft was just simply because it was... they introduced a lot of systems that made content worse and made content faster, and it was just boring, right? Where you just queue into a dungeon and you get your badges. Like, I think queuing into dungeons, like, it's very hard to say that you can't have a queuing system nowadays, but back then it was really bad. I think the worst thing that Wrath of the Lich King did is it made gearing only patch relevant. Like, whenever you were doing, like, in the TOC patch or the ICC patch, you didn't have to do Old War at all. You could go from level 80 fresh character into TOC without ever stepping a foot into Old War. And in my opinion, I think that's bad.
it launched originally, some old school vanilla and TBC players called people starting then Wrath babies. These new players had no idea what the game used to be like, when it was hardcore, when you had to work for your epics, when you had to grind for weeks for your epic mount and put all of your own groups together. Wrath of the Lich King was seen to be so much easier. A looking for dungeon that teleports you straight there with no interactions needed. Heirlooms made leveling a breeze and you never even needed to replace them. So many...
I always thought heirlooms sucked. I didn't like it because, like, it was fun looking forward to being able to get a new piece of gear. Like, I remember I got Staff of Jordan on my Warlock. Dude, I felt like a god. It was so badass. I loved it.
Classes had their weak points plugged through being given a defensive cooldown, an offensive cooldown, mobility, and interrupt. Dual spec began to blur the line of who is known for doing what. A lot changed, that much is sure, and in Cataclysm, even more sweeping changes to World of Warcraft would come in, and then they would eventually see a continual drop on a patch-by-patch basis. DBC Classic is still holding out well. I would say the overall player base is large, as shown recently by the drop of Tier 6. There is far more competition from other MMORPGs than there was both during the time of
I think that's a big factor, is like people are just playing a lot of different games now, and that wasn't the case back then.
Original vanilla or classic from the likes of Final Fantasy XIV or Lost Ark mainly, at the moment at least. The thing is though, Blizzard were asked to do things no changes, and they have done, well, some things the same way, for the most part anyway, and allowed events to unfold in a rather non-intrusive manner. We've had issues.
I think that was a mistake. I think that Blizzard should have actually made more changes, like after the launch came out, and I think players were asking for it. Everybody was asking for it. Like, the no changes idea, like, from my mind, was always a starting point rather than like this is all the game is ever going to be. Like, they should have made more changes to the game earlier. Like, I can guarantee you, like, the Chrono Boon Displacer, if they had put that in the game earlier, it would have made the game better 100%.
Appear. Sometimes they're reacted to, like the amount of Black Lotus that dropped midway through Classic, but often it takes them a very long time to do, and we haven't really come to expect things out of the patches which were not originally included at that point in time. Blizzard nearly surprised nerfed Tier 5 content with 1 day's notice, or just recently,
that was weird.
The last
I remember that
content patch, making it so Tier 4 tokens can now be turned into PvP gear. Another good change, which they never really mentioned till patch day, and is not true to the original TBC either. But largely speaking, it's been the same releases, the same kind of servers, the same factions, and, well, wouldn't you know, the same things have happened. Doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome is indeed the definition of madness. The format in which World of...
I feel like a lot of it's just that well, let me read a comment in chat. But you said you wanted no changes and were very adamant about it. Now they needed to make changes. I feel like the project was doomed from the start. Yeah, that's right. I said I didn't want any changes, and then later on it seemed like we needed changes, so I said we should have changes. That's right. That's how it works. Yeah, that's how it works. Like, you would go, and if you have a system and the system is working well, then I don't think you need changes. But whenever you re-implement the system and it's working bad, then I think you need to change it. Give me 1 second. You can never change your opinion. It's not until... Give me a second. I gotta take my hoodie off. It's getting a little bit warm in my room. Can't change opinions? Well, it's not even changing an opinion. That's what I'm saying, right? It's like it was not even changing an opinion. It was just as simple as this. People wanted no changes at the beginning, and that's what they got. And then after some of those things didn't happen or things didn't work out the way people thought they would, then they wanted changes. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, they didn't want Blizzard to proactively change the game based off of something that they don't have any... There's no research behind. There's no experience behind.
Warcraft rolled out its servers has met what you can only assume is its logical conclusion once again at this point. The majority of players choose the biggest servers. If and or when your current server dies, where else would you go but one of them? The massively multiplayer side of World of Warcraft is really important. You want a big player base, active guild, pug groups, good active auction house, PvP arena groups going, and so much else. It's more important than anything else for a considerable number of players. Is anybody going to realistically go from a dead server or one where they are a faction minority and willingly choose to put themselves in the same scenario again? No, of course not. That would be completely crazy. This is just the endgame stage of a two-faction server-based game. It happened in retail and they changed the game because of it. It's now happened in Classic and we have layering and queues to bridge that gap. What about...
Well, it's because people don't want to play a game that has factions. That's why. And if they do, they want to play a game. And whenever I say people, I know that there are some healthy servers that have a good Horde and Alliance population. I know there's like one really good server on the EU. But if you look at the majority of players have no fucking problem sitting around and camping the 7 Alliance on the server in front of Karazhan for the rest of their lives. That is what most players want to do, is because most players don't want to be on a PvP server. They want to be on a server where they can win world PvP encounters. Like, there are no fresh players rolling on these 99% Horde servers. There aren't a bunch of Alliance players rolling on their servers because they think they want a challenge, because they know what's going to happen. You're just going to get fucking demolished. Like, you're going to lose, you're not going to have a chance. Maybe you kill one guy and 5 more kill you, and you can't ever do anything in the game. You can't play with anybody. It just sucks. So, like, a lot of people think that they want this, and then their actions prove otherwise. And this is what happened in Retail WoW, is that in Retail WoW, Alliance racials are actually really good. But nobody wants to play Alliance because everybody's already on Horde. It's basically like the player base effectively took factions out of the game, because they just decided, you know what, we don't want to do factions anymore, and everybody's just going to play on the same faction, which is kind of funny. Like, I think that's so cool in a way, is that the player base effectively voted with their own actions to just stop having factions. Problem solved.
World of Warcraft as an open world PvP game. It's great. Well, for about the first month or two of a fresh server anyway. It works when people are on a relatively even playing field, when there's no clear bias of how many people are in one zone or the next, when players are frequently coming up against each other, and when flying isn't a thing as well. It was good at the start of Classic, and for Season of Mastery I actually wished I rolled on a PvP server for at least the first month of the game.
Fuck
Fresh
that.
PvP is honestly a good experience. In the long term though, it's not. It's just players causing others different levels of inconvenience and then telling them to quit if they don't like it, which they do.
Yeah, exactly.
The server by
that's literally it. Is that people want to, like, a lot of world PvPers, they want to have control over another player. I think that is the fundamental thing, right? They want to be able to control what another player does. They want to be able to stop you from doing X or stop you from doing Y. And guess what? An average person doesn't want to do that. So they stop playing the game. They don't want to get fucked with like that. They're like, well, this isn't fun for me. And then they say, oh, well, you know, you can't handle it. They're like, oh, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to. Like, this sucks. Like, I just want to play the game and not get fucked around. Don't play. Yeah, and that's it. And then they just move on and they transfer to another server, or they stop playing the game. And that's exactly what happened in Classic WoW.
Server faction PvP war is near always eventually a landslide. And what did the winning faction get as a reward? No more world PvP because the other faction leaves. And where do the players go? Yep, you already know, a mega server where they are now the faction majority. It's certainly Blizzard that's continued making the servers in a way which allows for this to happen, but players en masse keep making the same decisions. Mega server, faction majority, no interest in world PvP. no interest in balanced servers.
Because players don't know what they want. They think that they know what they want until they get what they want, and then for some reason they don't like it. That's what it is. That's what people want. What do people want in Classic WoW? What do people want in Retail WoW? I'll tell you what people really want. They want to be able to play whatever character, however way they want. They don't want to have to deal with like fucking secondary systems on alts or anything like that. They want everything to be account wide. I think that's what players really want. They don't want to have to deal with servers. If all servers were merged instantaneously, most players would be happy about that and it would be good. They also want to not have world PvP whenever they don't want world PvP. That's why War Mode was so successful. That's it. That's what people actually want because that's what they do. Like you don't ever, if you never listen to somebody's words if you can instead listen to their actions, because the actions always mean more than the words.
People on the servers with 99% of their faction don't want world PvP. They just want other people to play with, and that's where other people are, so that's where they end up going.
War Mode successful? I think War Mode is primarily successful. Yeah, how is it not successful? What makes War Mode unsuccessful? Yeah, what makes it unsuccessful? It killed world PvP? Well, then it's successful. Because it gave people the option to opt out of something that they didn't want to do. Because if it was successful, if it wasn't successful, then it would force players. Every time that you force players into an action, every single time that you force players into doing something that if they had an option, they would not do it, that's not success. What it did is it gave players an option to not have to do something. Because the fact is, a lot of people rolled on a server. Like, let's say, like, I went to Kel'Thuzad in, I think Thrall is a good server. Like, how many of you guys rolled on a server and, like, it was relatively, like, I was on Thrall Alliance whenever I first started playing the game, and it was, like, maybe, like, 30% Alliance, 70% Horde, 60, it was about 60-40, right? Where 40% were Alliance. Now that server is, like, 95% Horde. There are a lot of servers that just changed over the years, and where you originally rolled on a server that you enjoyed world PvP, you then became more and more outnumbered over time, and it became not fun. You see what I'm saying? So, like, you have somebody that's played on a server for something like that, and then it's like, is it fair for you to tell that person, oh, well, you should transfer? No. Is it fair for you to tell that person, oh, well, you should just play on another server or just go out there and suck it up? No. That's not fair. Because the server's population changes dynamically all the time, and the game, whenever the game, basically the game is engineering an unfun experience for the player. That's bad. Wicked Anime Girl, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. 5 gifted subs. Thank you. It provides a real sense of danger out in the world that you don't get from random mobs. Yeah, but people didn't want that, because if they wanted that, then they would play with War Mode on. So if people don't have War Mode on, it means they don't actually want it. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. Like, if that's what they wanted, if that's what they felt was a value, then they would have stayed with War Mode on. But they didn't, because they didn't like it. It's literally that simple. You have to incentivize it with better design. Why do you have to incentivize it? Because players wouldn't do it naturally, because they don't choose to do these things. Like, I don't understand how this is hard to get. PvE Andes always hate world PvP. Most people just don't want to deal with it. Yeah, they just don't want to fucking deal with it. Then they just turn War Mode on, then they're in groups and they can gang up on one. Yeah, they could do that if they want. I feel like if you give... So think about it like this. If you give people the option to say no to something, and then every single person or most people are saying no to it, is the system or the option to say no the problem, or is it the reason why they're saying no the problem? I think it's the reason why they're saying no, and what they're saying no to, that is what the problem is.
It's the conclusion of the 2-faction server system that World of Warcraft has. This will happen eventually. Every single time. So is there a bit more truth all in all to Brack's statement than we may care to admit? Well, you have to expand on it a bit in the first place. When he answers, he doesn't really have much time to talk about it, and he just covers the convenience factors offered from later expansions.
Yeah.
But as a view of the whole game, some areas have done much better than others. I think
somebody said that I'm biased because I'm a streamer that gets camped. Well, then how do you explain all the other servers that had the same thing happen? How do you explain all the other servers that had the same thing happen? What about like the people on EU? I'm not even on EU. Well, yeah, is everybody a streamer? What about on retail WoW? Does everybody stream? Does everybody that plays retail WoW stream? Probably, but like, I mean, not really. It has nothing to do with me being a streamer. I personally dislike it, yeah, because I am a streamer. But I can understand why other people also dislike it for reasons besides that. It's just, it's just an excuse, exactly. Like, look, if World PvP was so great, then everybody wouldn't have opted out of it in war mode. It's because most players actually don't like it. It's not fun. It's that simple.
at this point we can say that few players want small servers with name-by-name basis for other players and the smaller communities. Few players care about world PvP or a notion of a faction war within the game. Many players care about being on a big server over absolutely everything else. There seems to be much more interest for the raiding content side of the game than the PvP as per data made available. The player base is much more driven by...
PvE games are just much more popular. Like, Mortal Online has, like, a online total of, like, what, a fucking 10,000 people? 5,000 people? New World is dying. Like, you look at Lost Ark, Final Fantasy, and WoW, like, these are primarily PvE games. That's why they're successful. There's actually not this huge amount of people that care about PvP games. Like, it might sound like that, but it's clearly not based off of the numbers.
Goals, achievements, and loot, and knowing that features to alleviate issues such as respecking, for example, happen for certain in the future is creating present demands for it to happen.
That's a good example.
Implementation of certain gameplay elements were kind of scuffed to begin with, such as spell batching, but hey, overall numbers don't lie. Classic was and still is, I think, a huge success for what it is. Unsurprisingly though, many people don't like everything about how the game was, but that's not to say players didn't want it. Not at all. In fact, listen to this.
You think that you want this, and I think maybe that you do.
They just had to do it to them, didn't they? I'm going to be honest, I didn't like every aspect of Classic. I thought the PvP was over.
You know, like, J. Allen Brack is probably like a huge fucking asshole dickhead, but I do kind of feel bad for the guy. Because, like, whenever he took control of Blizzard, his hair was brown. And I did the math in my head from whenever he took over and whenever the California investigation happened, and it happened within like 3 months of him taking over the company. Like, Mike was like, hey, here you go. Here's an egg. It's Blizzard, the egg, and the egg has a bomb in it. And then immediately Mike's gone. Everybody loves Mike. He's on another fucking company. Everything's going great. And then immediately fucking the egg blows up. Boom. He's like, oh my God. And then by the time Bizzcon last time rolls around, his hair is white in like a year and a half. Like, that dude, I feel bad for that guy. Like, I really fucking do. He got put in a position he should not have fucking been in, and he got promoted into that. He was not ready for it. I don't know how anybody could be ready for it. I do. I feel bad for him. It sucks. I mean, it's his responsibility. He probably could have done a lot more. He could have done a better job. But also, I mean, you know, you can feel bad for somebody whenever they bite off more than they can chew. Yeah, he inherited a clusterfuck of a company. That's what happened? Yeah. That's basically what happened, straight up. He inherited a clusterfuck of a company.
Roll a letdown, and that ranking was just an awful system. And I don't find everything in TBC thrilling either. My Shadowbolt key is getting worn off my keyboard after it being my entire rotation for as long as it's been. I'm looking forwards to having an actual rotation and for more things to think about when I'm pressing my buttons in Wrath. I like the collection tabs and places to store my items so they don't mess up my bags or my bank. And you bet I'm looking forwards to the new challenges that raiding will have in store. But that doesn't mean I can't wait for it. I'd much rather have some kind of middle ground between no changes and actually there are a few things that we should probably address. Totally no
I don't care about no changes stuff anymore. I mean, the thing is, the game, like, I only really cared about that for Classic. Like, make all of the changes for Wrath. I don't care. Just make the game good. Like, that's all I care about. Just make the game good, and if it's bad, then who cares? Like, I already did Wrath before, It was okay. It wasn't amazing. Yeah, just make all the changes. That's all there is to it. And so, yeah, I do want to say, like, PvP Andy's modeling hard right now. Yeah, I know there are a lot of PvP Andys that were unhappy about my opinions about World PvP. And I want to remind you that my opinions are not opinions. These are literally statistical. This is statistical data. Statistical data proves that players don't want to deal with that bullshit. It is statistical fucking data. You look at the numbers, you see the servers trending towards extremes, you see how it's happening on retail WoW, people that are opting out of the servers. Do a poll. Here is why a poll is a bad idea. It is because players theoretically want World PvP until they get it and it's not fair to them, and then they don't want it anymore. That's why. Is because people will vote on saying, oh, I actually like this, I actually want this, and then they transfer over to a server that's 95% their faction.
Changes was a little bit much. I liked Classic for what it was, I liked TBC for what it is, and I mean, I liked Wrath of the Lich King when it was the current expansion, so I guess I'm going to like that. Would I like to see more changes overall? Sure, yeah I would, but other people wouldn't. I think we should leave whatever the current version of the Classic expansion is to be its own thing. A recreation of what it once was. If you do want more and you do want changes, I hope that's where the seasonal servers can do that for you.
Yeah, I really want to see the seasonal servers do that more. Yeah, absolutely. It's opinion and situation point of view. If you put server imbalances aside, though, for the most part, people want World PvP. No, I don't really think so. Yeah, I don't think so at all. And also, like, let's think about why are server imbalances a reason that people don't want World PvP? Why? It's because it's because they're going into a fight they know they'll lose. You have 3 people out there, you're all by yourself, you're going to lose the fight. That's really, yeah, they suck. 10v1. Well, it doesn't really matter if it's 10v1 or 1v1 if the guy has, like, way better gear than you. Like, for example, if you're a mage and you're level 59 and there's a rogue in AQ 40 gear, if it's 10v1 or you against the rogue, it's pretty much the same thing. It doesn't matter because you're dead in one shot anyway. So what I'm saying is that the reason why people use the unbalanced servers is the reason why they don't like World PvP is because they don't like World PvP where they don't feel like they have a fair chance. And what I've learned about players over the years is that players, whenever they're winning, think that they have a fair chance, and whenever they're losing, think that they don't.
Seasonal Mastery went in a little bit on the shallow end for me personally. I'm hoping for a bigger and better Season 2. As for not wanting all of this though, look, Classic is old by MMOs, real old. 16 years now, is it? And somehow I still find it more enjoyable than most games that have come out over the past few years.
I can see why.
There are some things in the simplicity of it all, like how smooth and responsive the combat is. If the biggest, single, and most successful update Blizzard have done in recent years is to remove every update they have ever done, I think that certainly tells you something about how many people really did want the original game. That is all from me though. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you all in the next one very soon.
Completely out, players enjoy being the underdog and coming out on top in 1v2s and 2v3s. Well, that's because it's not true. That's why I left it out. Players don't enjoy being the underdog and coming out in 2v1 and 3v3 situations because usually they don't. Usually you lose and you get fucking destroyed, and then it's a 2v2, and then it's a 2v1, and then it's a 3v1, and then that's what happens. Like, it's just not true. And it's not true based off of evidence. There is literally statistical evidence that, there is statistical evidence that proves that to not be true. That's why the servers keep trending towards extremes. Wow, are there some people? Are there some people that think that it's true? Yes, absolutely. There's the video right here. This is the WillE video. I wanted to watch this. It's a few days old. It's 5 days old, but I wanted to pick it up because I want to talk about it a little bit classic because obviously Wrath of the Lich King is coming out soon. And yeah, I think so. The only reason it's hyped to win 2v1 or 2v2, 1v2 or 1v3 is because there's 20 other times where they died in that scenario. Exactly. And there's a lot of people that don't want to spend the 20 other times that they die just to have the one time that they don't die. Yeah, how would you know about PvP? You're boosted all the time? Because I was better in PvP than you were before you were born. That's why. Like, I was queuing into the people that you probably watched their streams back in Wrath of the Lich King. All right? Yeah, I knew a lot about World PvP. I did it all the time. That's why. You're 52? Yes, I am. No, wasn't logic gonna say your hairline, you balding bitch boy? Fuck you. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, dude, 60. Are you on the edge today, dude? I have been, to be honest, I am a little bit on edge because I feel like people are, I always get really mad and frustrated whenever I feel like people are denying simple, like, quantitative facts. Like, it's very frustrating for me, and to be honest, if I see people doing that, I just ban them. I do, because it's just, like, this is what the data shows. The data shows this trend, and you're telling me that I'm wrong. Well, it's not this isn't a debate. It's not a debate. This isn't like a he said, she said situation. This is objective data that can really only be interpreted one way. Because you have multiple use cases. You have retail use cases, you have war mode use cases, and you have classic use cases and Burning Crusade use cases. You have it done over a period of time of 5 or 10 years. You have so much data to go off of. It clearly leads to one fucking conclusion, and people that don't want to acknowledge that or use these like little weird fucking personal anecdotes to disprove data that's literally gathered by millions of players, they're just fucking stupid, and yes, it makes me mad. Yes, it does. Absolutely. But that goes against their truth. Yeah, I know. Show me the data, please, and thank you. It's on Ironforge Pro. Ironforge Pro, Warcraft, WoW Progress is another good one, too. Both of those. Statistics are the most easily manipulated type of data for public stuff, and it brings out the rage, dude. Most people that think that statistics are easily manipulated are too stupid to even understand how they're manipulated. They only say that whenever they want to say something or have an opinion on something that goes against what the statistics show. Because most of the time, yes, can statistics be manipulated? Yes, they can. Are they being manipulated in this case? Obviously not.